So the train, after 17 days, arrives in Mauthausen, which is a beautiful village on the banks of the Danube in Austria near Linz. The concentration camp was up the very steep hill behind the village. And when my mother arrived in Mauthausen, she had such a shock because, as opposed to when she'd arrived in Auschwitz, not knowing what that was, this time she knew because she had heard about this appalling place from very early on in the war. And she said that the shock of seeing the name, she always thought probably provoked the onset of her labour. And she started to give birth to me on that coal wagon. She had to climb off the coal wagon unaided. She had to climb onto a cart because the prisoners who were not strong enough to walk up the hill to the camp, they had to get onto a cart and it was pulled up by others. She had people lying all over her, people with typhus and typhoid fever, and she proceeded to give birth to me. And there was another Nazi officer who saw that she was in the throes of child labour, and he said to her, "Du kannst weiter schreien," which, as you know, means you can carry on screaming, because presumably she had been. And she always said that she was screaming not only because she was giving birth, but because she thought this was her very last minute on this earth. She thought she was about to die. But we both survived the experience. I was born, I didn't move, I didn't breathe. Incredibly, the Germans allowed a doctor to come to my mother, a doctor who was also a prisoner. And after a few days, my mother actually found out that this doctor was the head of Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the University of Belgrade. So he didn't have any medication, he didn't have any equipment, but he had the knowledge, he knew what to do. And so he cut the umbilical cord and he smacked me to make me cry, to make me breathe. And there are two reasons why we survived. And the first is a very chilling reason. On the 28th of April 1945, the Germans had run out of gas for the gas chamber. My birthday was the 29th. So presumably, had my mother arrived on the 26th or 27th, again, I wouldn't be talking to you now. And the second reason why we survived was because about 4 or 5 days after my birth, the American army liberated the camp. My mother reckoned she wouldn't have lasted much longer.